Whether you're addicted to smoking, eating, or gambling, you're probably addicted to something on some scale. But what hooks us and feeds these addictions? Why do we get addicted? To start off, there are two main types of addictions: substance addictions and behavioral addictions. A substance addiction is an addiction to a drug like caffeine, nicotine, or cocaine, and a behavioral addiction is an addiction to a certain activity or behavior such as gambling, eating, or sexual reproduction. But what makes us use or take part in these things? Addictions are still being explored today, and it's still important to note that we aren't 100% sure why we get addicted. But the most widely accepted theory today is that addiction is sort of like a brain disease, and here's how it goes. Humans learn to survive based on a reward-styled system, and when we do something that aids in our survival, like eating, our limbic system releases dopamine, a chemical that makes us feel good. This is why some people can get addicted to behavioral addictions like exercising. When you exercise, you are aiding in your survival, and in return, dopamine is released. The body likes this sensation, and you may exercise more or become addicted to exercise because you like the feeling that dopamine gives you. But let's face it, doing drugs like cocaine and tobacco aren't necessary in our survival, so why do we get addicted to drugs? Drugs target our limbic system, and doing drugs releases up to 10 times the normal amount of dopamine in our body. This makes the body feel extremely good, and it experiences what is known as a dopamine high, rush, or overdose. This abnormal amount of dopamine impacts the brain so largely, and in turn the body quickly learns to use it again and again. But such high levels of dopamine have a consequence. After the dopamine wears off, the body is left in a hangover or recovery state. The brain struggles to return to its normal self, and in return can cause dangerous behavior, depression, and even pain. But that's not the worst part. Being exposed to high levels of dopamine for long periods of time can lower the natural amount of dopamine released. This means that eating and other actions our body needs to survive will no longer make you feel as good, and in return make your connection to the drug even more reliant. Since you can't get as much natural and healthy dopamine, you resort to doing even more drugs to make your body feel even better. But just because you go to a store to buy one bottle of beer doesn't mean that you're necessarily an alcoholic. So what makes you an addict? Signs of a substance addiction are altered tolerance levels, meaning that you either need less or more of the substance to get your dopamine high. Other symptoms occur after your high, such as sweating, hand tremors, anxiety, trouble sleeping, nausea, and even more use of the substance to get rid of the symptoms. But seeing as all addictions aren't substance addictions, what are the symptoms of a behavioral addiction? If you are suffering from a behavioral addiction, you are likely to have a history of attempting to stop with no luck, discontinuing other activities to make time for your addiction, and even continuing the addiction even after knowing it isn't good for you. But don't you fear, because although addictions are bad, there are of course ways to treat addictions. The most common way is of course to take medicines designed to stop the addiction, but in extreme cases you may need rehabilitation. And of course there's always the difficult one, just flat out stopping. But if waking up one day and deciding to stop isn't your cup of tea, there is always the option of slowly easing your way out of the addiction. For example, if your addiction is smoking, allow yourself to smoke 9 times one week, 8 times the next, 7 times after that week, and so forth. You're still giving yourself dopamine, but just progressively less until you don't need it anymore. So there's addictions in a nutshell. Addictions and good sensations are ultimately here to aid in our survival, but too much of anything can be harmful in the long run. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to rate, comment, and subscribe. If you would like to see some other content by Science Saturdays, be sure to click on the pictures below. Now normally this is where I would let you guys go, but real quick I have a question for you. Recently I changed rooms where I record in, and this room is a little more barren, so if you guys heard an echo in the video, please go down below, and if you didn't hear an echo in the video, please tell me in the comments below as well. That's it for now. Thanks for watching. Science Saturdays, bringing free education to the modern world.
Moje uzależnienie nigdy nie miało wpływu na moje dzieci. Opieka nad nimi zawsze była na pierwszym planie. Nie chciałam, żeby mi je odebrano.
For most people affected by drug use problems, there are family members who are affected also. The negative consequence can become more serious when it's a mother who is using drugs.
Realmente o impacto é diferente, porque a mulher é muito mais julgada em termos da família e da própria sociedade em geral. Portanto, fica muito mais desprotegida ela logo de imediato por a situação de ser mulher.
Quand j'ai dit à mes parents que j'allais avoir un enfant, ils étaient hyper stressés. Mais après la naissance, ça a changé. Et les relations sont améliorées.
Each year we estimate that in Europe there are around 30,000 pregnant women using opioids. The number of those using other type of drugs can be equal.
Ναρκωμανής και μητέρα. Πάρα πολύ δύσκολο. Δεν μπορούσα να παίρνω ναρκωτικά και να δίνω στα παιδιά μου όλα αυτά που χρειάζονταν. Και στην πραγματικότητα, μερικές φορές δεν με ένοιαζε και καθόλου. Χρειάζομαι βοήθεια.
Many of these women can be scared of searching for help because of the negative consequences that it can have, for instance, on their children. They are scared that their children can be taken away. This is why the services need to take into specific consideration their needs.
Quando começou a pedir licença para pegar na perna do seu próprio filho.
Eu tinha muito medo de tocar, agora é a parte do fim, não é?
Agora daqui para aqui.
Lo importante de crear un espacio específico para mujeres embarazadas y puérperas es que se sienten como mujeres, son tratadas como mujeres, no como enfermas, mujer como madre y mujer como un miembro de la sociedad que tiene que ser integrado en el mundo laboral.
Sim, agora. Exatamente, é postíssimo.
Sim.
Pregnancy and motherhood can be important motivation for women to be treated and to overcome their problems. This is why international guidelines encourage women in pregnancy to treatment.
Es muy importante todo el equipo estar junto, disponible para la mujer en un día en que ella sabe que va a estar su psiquiatra, su psicólogo, su enfermera, su fisioterapeuta y su asistente social.
Ich wusste, dass ich meinem Kind schade. Das war mir vollkommen bewusst. Je mehr ich das realisierte, umso mehr Drogen nahm ich, weil ich mich so schrecklich gefühlt habe. Und dann dachte ich, okay, entweder ich sterbe bald, ich werde verrückt und weggesperrt, oder ich werde clean.
Também é difícil, ninguém diz que não, mas uma pessoa se tiver um objetivo, não é? Um filho, que é o maior objetivo de todos, não é? Uma pessoa consegue, basta querer.
Acabamos por conocer todas a la paciente y a los hijos, lo que es muy importante.
Tí go manis cén fágur lean mé raig ag tógáildrogaí, níor vinnig aon duine dom hena féin. Níla me géirí go déananig mo bhácan mo céine, agus bhála mé a eáil séir ó drogaí.
Once this was a poppy growing in Italy or Turkey or some other hot land. The dried juice of this plant produces opium, a powerful drug. Contained in opium is morphine, used by doctors to relieve severe pain. From morphine comes heroin, outlawed even medically from the United States. These and other derivatives form the group of drugs called opiates. Opiates are classed as depressants. An overdose causes unconsciousness, then death. A smaller dose, taken into the bloodstream, inhibits all the functions of the body by its action on the brain and the central nervous system. But the body gradually builds up a tolerance to the drug. More and more is needed to produce the same effects. After continued use, the body acquires a physical dependence on opiates, so that withdrawal of the drug causes a brief but violent illness until the body can make a readjustment. Another depressant is marijuana, derived from the hemp plant. It inhibits and distorts the action of the brain and nervous system in a manner somewhat different from opiates. A third drug, cocaine, is derived from the leaves of the coca plant. Its action is different from that of the depressants. When cocaine enters the body, it has a strong effect on body functions by acting as an irritant on the brain. Cocaine causes unusual and often unpredictable feelings and actions. Instead of physical dependence, marijuana and cocaine cause profound mental and emotional disturbances. A large overdose of cocaine causes convulsions, then death.